A classified satellite image flickers onto the screen, black and white, coordinates blurred, somewhere over Antarctica. Then a single line of text cuts through. Governments have been sending secret missions to Antarctica for decades. The public was never told why. Cut. Military convoys crawling across endless white. Expedition footage stamped with government seals. Documents, page after page, buried under thick black ink. You can't read a single line. Then silence. Just the wind. Just the ice. What is actually down there? Because the more you dig, the less the official story holds up. And today, we dig. Let's start with something that sounds completely normal, until you actually think about it. Antarctica is a continent, one of 7. Land, mountains, lakes, coastlines. But unlike every other continent on Earth, you can't simply go there. No tourist flights, no backpacking routes, no open borders. Every visit, every researcher, every journalist, every support crew member requires explicit government approval. You don't go to Antarctica. You are permitted to go. Why? The official answer is safety, environmental protection. And sure, it's an extreme place. But that explanation cracks the moment you look at who governs the continent. The Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959. 12 nations. 12. And the speed at which it came together was unusual. International agreements of that scale take years. Bureaucratic delays, political standoffs. This one moved fast. Very fast. And the full negotiation records weren't released to the public for decades. The treaty itself is remarkable. It demilitarizes the continent, suspends all territorial claims, locks the entire landmass under peaceful purposes only. Sounds wonderful. But here's what it really does. It places Antarctica under collective international oversight in a way that exists nowhere else on Earth. No other landmass on this planet is governed like this. Now hold on to this number. More human beings have walked on the surface of the moon than private civilians have freely and independently explored Antarctica. Let that land. We've sent people 250,000 miles into space, but this continent, this one, right here on our own planet, remains more restricted than the lunar surface. Why? Okay, let's talk about what's actually under the ice, because even the official scientific record is extraordinary, and it barely makes the news. Roughly 4 kilometers beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, there is a lake, an enormous one. It's called Lake Vostok, and it has been completely sealed off from the outside world for approximately 15 million years. No sunlight, no air, no contact with the surface above. 15 million years of total isolation. When scientists finally drilled down to reach it, what they found stunned the research community. Microbial life, living organisms, surviving in conditions that, by every previous assumption, should have been completely sterile. The pressure alone should have crushed everything. The darkness, the cold, and yet, life. The implications are massive. Because those exact conditions, isolated liquid water beneath thick ice, no sunlight, extreme pressure, match almost perfectly what we believe exists on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. If life can survive in Lake Vostok, it can almost certainly survive out there. But that's not the only thing scientists have found. Magnetic anomalies detected beneath the ice, large, irregular, deeply puzzling. Some readings suggest significant formations underground that don't fit any standard geological model. Researchers have been careful with their language, but one word keeps surfacing quietly in academic papers: structures. In 2018, a massive crater was confirmed beneath the Greenland ice sheet, but Antarctica has its own version, a roughly 300-kilometer-wide impact zone, identified beneath the West Antarctic ice. If confirmed, it would be the second largest impact crater on Earth, the size of something that hit this planet hard enough to leave a 300-kilometer scar. And then there's this. Before Antarctica froze, it wasn't always frozen. Ground-penetrating radar has mapped what lies beneath, and what it reveals are ancient river valleys, rolling plains, drainage systems, a full landscape, a world that once existed above the ice, warm, possibly habitable, before the deep freeze locked it away. Something was here, before the ice came. Now here's where it gets harder to explain away. 1946, World War II has just ended. The world is exhausted, cities in ruins, soldiers heading home, and the United States Navy decides, now, right now, is the perfect moment to send an expedition to Antarctica. not a small one. Operation High Jump deployed 4,700 soldiers, 13 ships, aircraft carriers, submarines. The operation was scheduled for 6 to 8 months. It was abruptly cut short after just 8 weeks. Officially, weather conditions. The stated purpose, training and scientific survey. 4,700 soldiers for a training exercise on a continent with no enemy, and then Admiral Richard Byrd, the man who led the expedition. Shortly after returning, he gave an interview to a Chilean newspaper. In it, he described a threat, his word, coming from the polar regions, a threat capable of flying, quote, from pole to pole at incredible speed. He was never asked to elaborate publicly again. And he wasn't the first one down there. 2 years before High Jump, Nazi Germany had already been there. In 1938, the Third Reich sent an expedition to Antarctica. They photographed and mapped huge sections of the continent, dropped markers to claim territory. They called it Neuschwabenland. Historians still argue about what they were actually looking for. The official record is thin, the unofficial theories, many. Now jump forward, modern day, 2016. Patriarch Kirill, head of the Russian Orthodox Church, makes a personal visit to Antarctica. That same year, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry flies there in the middle of a presidential election. Buzz Aldrin, the man who walked on the moon, travels to Antarctica, reportedly becomes seriously ill, sends out an emergency message, gets evacuated. These aren't researchers with careers built around ice cores. These are world leaders, religious authorities, cultural icons, all quietly making the trip, minimal press, no real explanation, and more recently, private aerospace companies operating in Antarctic-adjacent zones have conducted launches that received almost no mainstream coverage. Why does Antarctica keep pulling powerful people toward it? This is where the documented record starts to collide with official denial in ways that are very difficult to dismiss. During the Cold War, multiple governments were monitoring aerial phenomena over Antarctica. This is not speculation. Declassified documents, released under Freedom of Information requests, confirm that unusual aerial activity was tracked and recorded above the continent. The exact nature of what was seen, vague in the released files. Portions are still redacted. Beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet, scientists have identified a massive heat source, not a small geothermal vent, a large, anomalous source, generating enough energy to alter ice melt patterns across an entire region. The official position? Volcanic in origin, but the source has never been fully mapped, and the explanation remains, their word, preliminary. Then there's Google Earth. Pull up Antarctica on satellite view. Look carefully. You will find zones, specific, deliberate, blurred, pixelated, or simply blacked out. This does not happen over other continents at the same scale. Independent researchers have been cataloging these locations for years. No official explanation has ever been offered for why certain Antarctic coordinates are obscured from public satellite imagery. In 2017, a formation visible in satellite images sparked intense debate. It appeared geometric, clean edges, a shape that did not match the terrain around it. The official explanation? Sastrugi, wind-carved snow formations. Others looked at the scale, the symmetry, and found that explanation insufficient. And here's something that surfaces again and again from people who have actually worked at Antarctic research stations. Communication blackouts, strict protocols on what can be discussed externally, a culture of information compartmentalization that goes far beyond standard scientific security. These are not conspiracy theorists. These are researchers, support staff, contractors, describing a working environment where certain topics are simply closed. Here's what's happening right now. As you watch this, Antarctica is melting. The ice is retreating. The rate is accelerating. This usually gets framed as a climate story. Rising sea levels, ecological collapse, carbon, all real. But there's another dimension to this, and almost no one is talking about it. As the ice retreats, things that have been buried for thousands, potentially millions of years, are becoming visible. Coastlines re-emerging, valleys surfacing. A geological record that was locked beneath kilometers of ice is slowly, steadily becoming accessible. Whatever has been hidden down there, by nature, by time, or by intention, the ice that hid it is disappearing. The next 10 years will not look like the last 70. The window for keeping Antarctica contained is closing, not in some distant hypothetical future, now. And the real question was never, what is under the ice? The real question is, who decides when the rest of humanity gets to find out? Because someone is making that decision. Right now. And it isn't you. The screen holds still. A single satellite image of Antarctica. White, vast, ancient, no text, no music, just the ice. And somewhere beneath it, something that has been waiting. Drop a comment right now. What do you think is under that ice? Ancient ruins? A geological anomaly? Something else entirely? I'm going to read every single response and hit subscribe, because when the next disclosure happens, when the ice finally gives up what it's been holding, you'll want to already be here.